looking for that. There you go.
Hey, welcome. I'm Preeti Modi Pan, the Equity Board Chair, and I call the special joint meeting of the Equity Board and the Economic Vitality Commission to order at 6:54 p.m. Due to the hybrid format of today's meeting, I'd like to start by providing some guidelines. This is a reminder that the meeting is being recorded and that we have live Spanish interpretation happening in the background. We have participants attending in person and others who may be attending by computer or by phone. For all meeting attendees, please speak clearly and pause frequently. State your name each time before speaking. If applicable, mute your mic when not speaking. If having technical issues, try joining the meeting using a different device like a smartphone or a tablet, or use the call-in information in the meeting invite to call into the meeting. Let's see. So I think with that, we're ready to get started with introductions and attendance. Monica, would you be able to help us with that?
Absolutely, I would love to. Good evening, everyone. My name is Monica Negril. I'm the Human Services Manager here at the city. So we can start with a roll call for the Equity Board, and then I'm going to invite our Economic Development Manager, Jen, to do the same for the Economic Vitality Commission. So with that, Kelly Mann. Good evening, Kelly. Welcome. Preeti Modi Pan. Good evening. Welcome. Lorna Gilmore.
Hi, Monica.
Hi, Lorna. Good evening. Welcome. Lucrecia Choto.
I'm here. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome. And Cristina Bonce. Give me just a moment. I'm going to unmute you.
Hi, everyone. I'm here, present.
Hola, Cristina. Good evening. Hi. Welcome. And with that, I'm going to pause because we have other board members who are out. So Helen Kibenje, Nima Kali, Ray Manahan, Shalanda Fleming, Tony Curry, and Kartik Kashinath are absent tonight, either excused. All of them are actually excused, traveling. Thank you. And we do have quorum.
Wonderful. I'm Jen Davis-Hayes, Economic Development Manager, and I'll start off with our chair, Chris Richley.
Present.
Our vice chair, Ashwin.
Thank you. I'm here.
Joan Probala.
Here.
AJ Taylor.
Greetings, I'm here.
Christy Garrard.
Here.
Jennifer Larson.
Present.
Kim Lee.
Present.
Art Freese.
Present.
Anu Tadapali.
Present.
And we do know we have members as well that have been excused, and so that includes Tom Brown, Nicoletta Machno, and we have another member who, Landon Halverson, who is not in attendance as well. We do have a quorum, although we don't need a quorum for this meeting.
Okay, so now we're on to the public comments section of our agenda. And public comments are an important part of the public process. We take them seriously and factor them into the decisions we make. I believe we have one person signed up for public comment. Are there any other members of the public joining us who would like to give public comment?
Thank you, Preeti. I don't see anyone else present in the room or virtually other than the one public member who's here in the room. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so then I think with that, we recognize Connie Marsh for public comment. Connie, please.
Sorry, I'm behind you. My name's Connie Marsh, and I'm actually a small business owner in Issaquah for almost 30 years now. Who would believe it? When I started out, they said the city was going to be helpful. We could go to this little meeting, and I ended up with an elderly white male who said, "That's a stupid business plan. You'll never make it. What are you thinking? It's a hobby. You should just go home." Which, of course, really motivated me. And all this time later, I've made massive quantities of money and provided for myself. So here you go. You want to try to make it better for businesses in Issaquah and be inclusive of all different kinds of people, which I don't know. I have no idea what that looks like right now. So I would suggest doing some test cases to see what exactly that means right now, because I don't know if anybody really knows. And then 2, we actually have a vision statement and a mission statement in this town that is supposed to be the guidance for everything. And then we have a massive comprehensive plan update slated for basically now. And I look at the agenda, and you guys are talking about the weeds. You aren't talking about the new language or the discussion that's going to happen that is going to bring the entirety of Issaquah into current times. You're basically saying, wow, we're down here in the gears, ignoring all that. Let's make decisions. I disagree. I think that we need to look at what the overarching policies and goals of the city are, include our diversity and our equity components in that. And we do have an economic vitality chapter in our comprehensive plan that is not noted or written at all in this presentation. And so you should start from the top and funnel down to the gears. So these gears would be next year, or even the year after you actually figure out what you want to do. Now, this doesn't mean that you're just totally stagnant in life. So when I read the presentation, this is how I took it. Wow, we have some really big employers. Awesome. There's no mention of the other 2,000 businesses in town. Who are they? Who owns them? What is the diversity? How far does this thread through? So where's the data for that? No, yeah, we have big employers. Okay, fine. Now, what do they do for employees? Who do they hire? Where do they live? And what do they contribute? Not just, whoa, it's Costco, there they are, they must be awesome. Not necessarily true. And so when you decide how you're going to thread your myriad of wonderful people through your business community, I don't think you have the data tools even to begin that conversation. Maybe you do. Maybe it is simply not in this presentation. But given what was provided to you, I don't even know how you could tell anyone what you think you should get. So I think the first step for me would be to review the history and what our town actually says now about what is supposed to be happening, and then ask for the most basic of data for what currently exists, and then ponder, okay, well, what are our expectations for the future and how do we make it better, and have some generalized conversation to feed into the comprehensive plan, not to feed into something like a low-tiered gears plan yet. So I applaud the groups coming together and having the conversation because I think it's important. I just think you're speaking at it at the wrong level. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie, for your thoughtful comment. Let's see. And with that, I think we move on to the next agenda item, which is the Human Services Division and Equity Board overview. And I will throw it over to you, Monica.
Thank you so much. Pretty good evening again, commissioners and board members. This is Monica Negro. I'm the Human Services Manager at the city. And so I would love to take the opportunity to give you a little bit of an overview of what Human Services does at the city. And after that, Preeti and I will also give you a brief overview of what the Equity Board does at the city of Issaquah. And I just shared the wrong presentation. Moment. There we go. Okay, so for those of you not familiar with the Human Services Division, we are actually part of the Parks and Community Services Department at the city. We are probably one of the largest departments that are community facing and providing community services. So the Human Services Division is one of the many divisions in the Parks and Community Services, along with Parks Planning, Parks Maintenance, Recreation, which includes the community center, the pool, the senior center, the rental division, including the farmers market. We also have the arts are in the Parks and Community Services, and of course, Human Services. And so I wanted to start by sharing this small visual of our division organizational chart. When I first joined the city about 5 years ago, the human services functions were limited to one staff. I was joking that I was a team of me and myself and the functions were limited to administering the human services grants that the city was giving to the city. Since then, we became a fully functional division with multiple programs, which I'm gonna walk you through in just a few minutes. But to summarize, we have a behavioral health and homeless outreach program. We have our human services planning. We have the case management functions for the community court. And then our newest program is an emergency housing program that we are piloting this year. So with that, just a brief overview of our behavioral health and homeless outreach program that we started all of the services and programs starting the last couple of years. So prior to 2020, the city was providing some partial grants to regional organizations, inviting them to do homeless outreach in Issaquah. The need was not big at that time, but also we learned that as the needs were increasing in Issaquah, the regional partners were not able to meet up and come. They were perhaps coming to Issaquah every 6 weeks or so and was not meeting the needs. So in 2020, City Council approved a pilot with a local nonprofit organization to conduct outreach services. In 2021, we decided to bring that program in-house. And so we launched the behavioral health and homeless outreach program. And at that point, the behavioral health program was really created to help and support the work of our team in the Issaquah Police Department. And so we started supporting police with responding to any 911 calls that were behavioral health in nature. So in 2022, we increased staffing to 2 staff. One focused mainly on homeless outreach. The other one focused more on behavioral health and working in collaboration with police. We created a homeless outreach dashboard. If you didn't have a chance to check it out, please do so. We would love to have it in your packet. You have the link to it. It shows you the information. I think very beneficial information is the number of unique individuals that we connected with that are homeless in Issaquah in the last couple of years. And the number is more than 150 at this point. And also, I think, surprising for many, the dashboard also shows you the limited services that exist in Issaquah and regionally as well. We are happy to report that City Council just approved the expansion of this program. We are going to add 2 more behavioral health coordinators who are actually going to help and be stationed in the police department, and they're going to be actively responding with police officers for calls. From data from the police department tells us that from about 15 to 19,000 calls that they receive per year, about 7,000 to 9,000 are behavioral health related. Of course, those are not all unique calls for unique people. They are multiple, often they are multiple calls, but still the need is there. So that's on the behavioral health and homeless outreach program. On the human services planning side, last year, for the first time, created a human services strategic plan in Issaquah. We worked for about 6 to 9 months with community organizations, nonprofit partners, and created the very first Issaquah human services strategic plan. So our staff, Hannah Roberts, is currently working on that implementation. She's also overseeing the human services grants that the city provides to the to nonprofit organizations. We fund about 47 different programs during this funding cycle. And then we also were assigned cultural conversations and community events. We are the community-facing division that was assigned that. Just as a fun fact, in case anyone's interested in going into the weeds, as one of our community members said, on the screen you see the Human Services Strategic Plan focus areas. Again, based on conversations that we had with the community, we identified overarching community needs: physical and behavioral health, housing continuum, which includes housing affordability and homelessness, so keeping people from becoming homeless, but also supporting those who are homeless, language access and culture-specific services, and community resources. Just a few visuals on some of the cultural events that we've been hosting in collaboration with the Equity Board. Pictures that you see are either probably from the Welcoming Week events, from Pride, and also from Hispanic Heritage Month events. Next, another subgroup in our Human Services Division is includes the case management functions for the community court. I'm not sure how many folks are familiar with the community court model. Anyone? Yes, no, maybe so? No? So maybe I can, oh, great, thank you. So the community court is an alternative to the regular traditional court system. In this model, which was launched, the municipal court launched this program in August of 2021, provides an opportunity for those with low-level crimes to enter a problem-solving court. Instead of going to jail, they enter different services and they follow a different path. If they're successful in those services, and that can often folks are homeless or they have severe behavioral health issues. If they're successful with entering in those services and completing successfully those services, then they don't need to go to jail. The program can last anywhere between 6 months and 12 months, depending on each person's individual need. So in human services, we also provide the case management functions, where basically one of our staff works directly with those individuals and making sure that they are connected to community service hours and other social organizations, or they have other needs met, whether that is accessing an ID or healthcare or signing up with a mental health provider, whatnot, you name it, they do it. And last but not least, our newest endeavor, it's an emergency housing program that we are piloting in collaboration with Motel 6. We are actually launching, hopefully successfully, this program on July 15. We have, essentially, we are renting long-term a dozen rooms from Motel 6, and we are gonna house participants who are enrolled currently in our homeless outreach program in trying to support them with temporary housing. And from that temporary housing, we are trying to support them with employment, education, and access to permanent housing. So it's an intensive program. It's a high barrier, what we call a high barrier shelter, meaning that people need to meet certain requirements before entering the program. So we are currently working full speed on finalizing the programmatic aspects of this program. We have the staffing ready. The office is being set up at Motel 6 as we speak. And we can come back and report to you on how we are doing. But that's perfect timing because this concludes my presentation. I spoke very fast. I apologize, interpreters. I just realized that I'm always the one reminding people to slow down, and I just like, gosh, I spoke very fast. But we have one person in the room with hands up, and then we'll go online to Lucrecia.
for the presentation of the emergency housing. Just, oh, yeah. So just curious. I think as per some kind of state law, there is like a temporary, when you're staying in a Motel 6, I heard that you can stay only like X number of days, like 60 days or something. And then you got to check out and you can come back in for 3 days. And then you can continue to stay. That's what I heard. Are you going to hit that bottleneck? When you said temporary, what is that temporary period?
Temporary. Yes. No, thank you for that. So because we have an actual program, so participants are going to be enrolled in our program and not necessarily they're not going to follow the Motel 6 rules because they're not going to be just guests of Motel 6. They're going to be part of our program. So then we don't need to worry about that. Thank you. No, that's a good one. Yes. There are different rules for that. Yes. Thank you. Lucrecia?
Yes, Monica, can you please explain what some of these thresholds that they need to meet are? And are any of them such that they could be deemed controversial by certain entities in the community that we should kind of be aware of?
No, thank you so much, Lucrecia. So typically when we talk in services for unhoused community members, low barrier, we define low barrier by basically saying that all are welcome to come as they are and they don't need to meet any requirements. For high barrier, in this particular case, we ask that people are already involved with our program for at least a month, and they have completed a first level of treatment if they need a treatment for mental health, physical health, or substance use. So let's say if somebody needed immediate care, they're going to go and take care of the immediate care and then come for services. The program that we have will not have 24-hour supervision. And so because of that, we need people to not be in a crisis where they need immediate medical services. And that can be, again, medical for physical, mental, or substance use. Does that make sense? And does that help with your question?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for clarifying that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Any other questions or comments?
One question about the community part of this. You've seen 15 participants since 2021, and 197.5 service.
I'm sorry, you cannot be heard. You need to speak into the microphone, please.
Sorry. Looking at the Issaquah Community Court, I'm seeing about 15 participants since August 2021, and I'm seeing 197.5 service hours. Are the service hours typically to most of the participants or just a few, or?
No, great question. So it varies. It's based on each person's individual needs. So one person might only need 2 hours of services, whereas another person might need 200 hours of services, right? If we have someone with high needs, which we often have in court, somebody who's unhoused, does not have an ID, does not have medical insurance, they just come with not even clothes on them, then that person might need several hours in just helping with the day-to-day things. Whereas somebody who might have had maybe a different type of crime and maybe it's a DUI and they just need to enroll in services, they might only need 2 hours of support in helping them connect with DUI services, for example.
Clarification, this is services rendered to the participant? This is services rendered to the participant rather than by the participant?
I was explaining the services rendered to the participant, but if you are referring, we also track services provided by participants, and often that can be community service hours or whatnot.
Okay.
So both are, yes. Mm-hmm. And Lorna, you have your hand up.
Hi, Monica. Can you tell me more about how many people in the Issaquah area that we are helping that are unhoused. What does the data show? Like, I don't know if you collect it on a weekly, monthly,
Mhm.
like how is that information collected? Because I was noticing there are 12 available spots in Motel 6, and I was just wondering what is the need and what is availability going to be? Is there going to be a problem with lack of houses, or there's going to be too, I'm just trying to figure out.
Yes. So thank you. Great question, Lorna. Absolutely, we know already that the needs by far outweigh the resources. So the homeless outreach dashboard is being updated on a monthly basis. So we gather information as we go. So in the most recent dashboard notes that we have connected with 178 unduplicated individuals, and that is those since September of 2021. Currently in our services, we have active about 40 some people. And like you said, the Motel 6 will have only a dozen rooms with a capacity of serving maximum 20 people. So we know that the need is much more. But we also know and hope, excuse me, the program only serves and is just one of the multiple options out there. Sorry, I have a tickle. Excuse me. So, sorry, Lorna. Long story short, we don't have enough space for sure. This is just a pilot, and we are trying to demonstrate the need, but we are also hoping that more resources will become available regionally.
Monica, also, can you clarify, can it be a family or will it just be individuals or like couples? So would it be possible that at Motel 6 we'd be having children between the ages of 0 and 18 staying there?
Primarily, we plan on serving individuals or couples only, and we hope to work with our partners in Bellevue for folks who need family services. We do not have the capacity or expertise currently, but on a temporary basis, let's say if we have a crisis and there's a family that needs shelter for the night until we find the connection, we will be able to help them, however, not long term. So one detail that I did not mention is that one of the rooms, we will keep one room as a standby room for any emergencies that come up that need just like a one time until we'll find better connection. So that's what we plan on doing for families or not. Thank you. And then I see someone else online. Kim Lee. Hi, Kim.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. That's really helpful. I'm curious, housing affordability and homelessness is a major concern, rightly so. And I see that, human services has grown exponentially over the years, but what are you seeing? And maybe the answer is homelessness and housing affordability, but what are you seeing from an equity perspective as being the biggest issue and something that rises to the top of your concerns going forward?
Thank you so much for that question. From an equity perspective, definitely housing affordability. I think all of the areas that we highlighted in our strategic plan are really, we started with an equity lens and we weaved in an equity lens throughout the process, but really we identified equity issues in all of the strategic focus areas. So physical and behavioral health, there are a lot of inequities. Housing continuum, affordability and homelessness, a lot of inequities. Language access and culture-specific services, lots of inequities. Really in all of the areas we identified options and opportunities to improve equity.
So lots of work to do.
A lot of work to do, yes. Thank you for that question of highlighting that. Very important.
Hi, this is Anu Taripalli from the Economic Vitality Commission speaking. One question that I had for the Human Services Department as a whole is do you guys have like a vision statement or a goal statement that can be socialized more broadly within the community so that you can get more help or more guidance or more support from the community as a whole?
Thank you. That's a great suggestion. I think the vision that we have it in the strategic plan, but it's not something that we broadcasted or promoted much. So I think there are opportunities for us to do that. Would love to hear more ideas and suggestions. Yes. Thank you for that.
Question on, have you looked at other areas of equity? I'm thinking things like the deaf or the blind, who often have significant issues with finding appropriate employment for them.
Thank you. So that did come up. The various inequities did come up as under community resources, employment, and supporting populations by age. Seniors, older adults came up, and also youth and children came up also as different populations to support. So we don't have a specific focus to just work and identify folks who are deaf or blind, but through the human services grants, we do support employment agencies that work with a wide range of disabilities. So we support 2 organizations that do that. Thank you. Great questions, commissioners. Love the interest and the questions, and board members. Okay, I don't see other questions at the moment. So if you bear with us for another 5 minutes, Cristina.
Hola, voy a ayudar. Voy a pedir ayuda de intérprete. Buenas tardes a todos. ¿Hay alguna forma de prevenir que la gente sea homeless? ¿Hay algún, no sé, seguimiento que se le dé, algún contacto con los bancos o alguna forma de saber quién está en riesgo de ser homeless y prevenirlo eso?
I'm going to ask for the interpreter's assistance on this one. I'm wondering if there is any way of tracking or any sort of program that gives an indication of people who are verging on homelessness. Is there contact with banks or something that can tell us who are at risk to become homeless?
Thank you, Christina, for that question. It would be so nice if we had a magic wand to tell us that. The closest that we are currently is in our communications with our nonprofit partners, let's say the food bank, who can tell us. We also support some of the low-income housing providers, so we are in communications with them. For example, the most recent rental assistance program that City Council funded a couple of months ago, it was meant to just infuse additional funds into the low-income housing unit to make sure that people stay housed. So those are a couple of things that we are aware of, that we are working on, but we know that more could be done. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with bank laws, but I don't think that due to confidentiality, that would be an avenue that we could explore. I'm looking at the business experts in the room, and I think they tell me, no way.
I can speak a little bit, Commissioner Chris Richley. I work for Harperstone Credit Union, actually, and been in banking over 20 years now. So I could tell you, yes, due to privacy policies, we are not able to release that information about who's foreclosing on their home or who's behind on their car note, or primarily home. We're not able to do that. Can we? Is there information that's out there? It's public information as far as who owns the home? Correct, right? But as far as privacy policy, who's defaulting and all whatnot, no. We would be in banks and credit unions would be in a lot of trouble for that.
Right, exactly. However, probably could be an option is if there are resources in place, we could share them with banks who could then perhaps share them with their customers. So that's why I think ideas still are great too.
And there are programs through your bank and your local credit unions that you can talk to and discuss with your bankers or your mortgage reps that help. I do know a lot of banks and credit unions like ours, we do offer assistance in payment forgiveness for so many months, skip a pays. There's a lot to go around, especially now times with, way that fees are going up and interest rates are going up on credit cards, costing a lot of hardship within the household with the bills going up, especially on credit. So that is dampening, what do I pay first? Do I pay my home note? Do I pay my car note? Do I pay my credit card? So definitely talk to your banker first, or your financial advisor, whoever you seek, accountant on that, and they have different programs. I know a lot of them do. So
Very helpful. Thank you. Art.
You may also be able to work with companies like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and some of the other secondary mortgage markets, because they work with the servicers, and like a servicing counselor would be able to suggest programs. They wouldn't be able to tell the program, to go to these people, but they would be able to tell the people to go to the program.
another comment on that, just to piggyback on Art, there are programs that are for credit counseling, suggestions for payments and how to create a budget, financial education that are available for that. And we do, within bylaws of the financial institutions, do follow that, because we don't obviously want to default or have defaults, because let's face it, banks aren't in the business to own homes or cars. So we're in it to help people maintain their homes. So there is credit counseling that we provide to our members that are disclosed up front of what they have for that as well. So seeking credit counsel would be a helpful resource as well. I don't know if you've talked to different credit counseling, a lot of them nonprofits as well that can help with that, even mortgage assistance, payment assistance, and whatnot.
That's great. Thank you. Christina, did that answer your question?
Bueno, me da un poco más de idea, pero por otro lado pensaba también que tal vez esta gente pueda tener la opción de acudir a algún recurso de la ciudad como ayuda cuando estén en riesgo, que la gente del banco les dé la información y hay alguna forma de ayudar, pero a través de los recursos que no sé si ahora lo ofrezcan, pero podría ofrecerse algún recurso de ayuda a través de la ciudad.
So that leads me to another idea. I'm wondering then if there's some way to get those people in connection or in contact with the service providers. If perhaps the bank could let them know of the services available within the municipality, within our city, and how they can get in contact with some of those.
Thank you, Christina, and the interpreters. Yes, Christina, I think that's exactly great idea and suggestion. I think that's probably the option to go about, just to provide those resources to their customers. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to comment on that, I could tell you firsthand from our credit union and the other banks, at least Harborstone, that's a first step. We do offer that service. We do have a service called Green Path that we co-partner with in that situation. So most financial institutions have a first step, which is credit counseling, which is to provide providers like that or similar to that know how they can help create that budget, create a payment option, create plans in that sense. So again, it's yeah, we can reach out, and believe me, they know, but it's also the first step of them coming in as well, because they are getting notified via letter, via statement, calls, and whatnot. But it's also, how can we get the word out that they can also come in and see somebody physically, and we can give them those resources. A lot of times it's all done on the phone and digital. So come in person, you'll learn a lot if you come in person.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I think that's a good idea, because also sometimes we are paying more credit than the real price. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Commissioners and board members would like to move forward with the agenda, but just saw Lucrecia, you have a comment, question? And then
Yes, it's just a comment. I just wanted to add that it's important to keep in mind that what we're discussing in terms of intervention is for people who actually have access to banking already. And so that there's also a group of community members who have chronic poverty. They come from generational poverty. And so they are the ones who are probably most vulnerable because they don't even have these avenues where there can be intervention, right? They don't even have a bank account. They just simply don't have access to this. And so I think that when we discuss, strategies for reaching out to a wider pool of community members, it's important to ask questions about, okay, so if these things are in place, what percentage of people are accessing them? And if the number of people who are in poverty, who are homeless, who are homeless, not in the sense of being visibly homeless because they're in a tent, but homeless because they're couch surfing from place to place or farming out their children to spend the night with relatives, that sort of poverty. We need to ask, like what can we put in place to capture that level of poverty, right? And I'm just trying to like give voice to the notion that there is a safety net and people are accessing it and we're doing everything that we can. Because in reality, that safety net is only applicable to people who are already of a certain financial threshold, and it's not covering people who are much more poor and or come from generational poverty that prevents them from even having access to banking. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucrecia, for that comment. Thank you so much. Okay, so board members, commissioners, if we may have 5 more minutes of your time to give you just a brief overview of another human services related program, which is not a program, but it's our newest equity. It's our newest board at the city, and that's an overview of the equity board. Love to team up with Pretty on this. I can go ahead and get started with telling you that back in 2020, as I was the staff liaison for the Human Services Commission, the Human Services Commission was tasked with reviewing the role of residents in the city's equity initiatives. And so that started a one-year community-led conversation about what roles should residents have in the city's equity initiatives. After that year long of community conversations and co-creations, the community proposed the creation of an equity board to city council. And now that is history. We have now an equity board that's been in place for a little bit over a year. They launched in November of 2021. So almost 2 years now, in 5-6 months. Sorry, my math probably is not right there, but that's in essence the brief overview of how the equity board was created. At the city, currently we have the internal facing equity initiatives are led by our human resources department that also has used an equity consultant and has an equity team. The community facing equity initiatives have been led by the human services division up to this point, and we are also staffing the equity board currently. And you heard me talk about community conversations and events, and we also are involved in other local and regional groups focused on advancing equity. So what I would like to highlight before handing it over to Pretty a little bit is the objective and the role of the equity board really was to support and cultivate the voices of the diverse communities in Issaquah. And it's an advisory board to the mayor, city council, and other city departments on a variety of things from city plans, policies, regulations, programs related to equity initiatives. We would love to invite you. Have a link to, I'm not going to go through the entire board role, but it's a unique board in terms of membership. This is the only board that has a requirement to have a majority of the board members be BIPOC representatives. I think it's a forward-thinking initiatives for the city, for sure, compared to all other cities in our region. The work plan is developed in following the city's wide work plan and budget process in collaboration with other departments and city staff. And this is where I'm going to invite Priti to walk us through some of the initiatives and work plan items in 2023 on the boards.
Oh, thanks, Monica. Yeah, I was just looking through my notebook at our first equity board meeting where we had welcoming remarks by the mayor and technical details about COVID and the open public meetings to kick us off in November of 2021. And our first in-person meeting was a year ago, or in August. So we've been in hybrid for 11 meetings now or so. So it's been a journey, and all but 3 of our current members are founding members. So. So in terms of our 2023 work plan, we have work plan items where different departments have asked us for advice or feedback on different tools that they have. So like that ADA transition plan, the public engagement toolkit, the capital improvement plan, sustainable purchasing. We've also supported the rollout of the equity framework as an equity analysis tool to support programs, policies, other types of implementation and planning. The board has also identified, I think late last year, identified about 4 major work plan areas to focus on this year as well. They're up on the slide, but there's a certain pattern here, but the first 3 are related to exploring bias and privilege. So one is using data and exploring that with different city departments, focusing on the police department first. When the police chief came and spoke with us, that kind of sparked the idea. We're also interested in exploring bias and privilege in business and customer service, which we'd love to reach out and connect more with you all on that topic. And then in general, we've heard a lot of incidences of bias and hate. And so we want to get a better understanding of how prevalent that is. Is it increasing? What the trends are in Issaquah? So we're exploring a little bit more about that topic. And then we've, along with the Human Services Department staff, partnered on different cultural conversations. Most recently, a gay pride event or Pride Month event, and then a Juneteenth event over at the community center. And there's more to come. So those are some of our work plan items for the year.
Thank you, Priti. And with that, board members and commissioners, if you have any questions, we would love to hear them. Otherwise, we would love to move on to hear from you all.
Just an idea in terms of additional items to consider. In Bellevue, this has been something that the police chief has mentioned, and it could very well transcend to Issaquah as well, is crime that is targeted towards certain communities and protecting residents from that. So since you're already collaborating with the PD department, it might make sense to consider that as well.
And if there's no other questions or comments, we can move on to our next agenda topic, which is Jen and Chris talking about economic development and the Economic Vitality Commission overview.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And this has been a great conversation so far, and it blends in really nicely to, now I'm trying to figure out this in real time here, to the conversations that we would like to have with you. So it's always wonderful to go after Monica. but it's also scary because she's pretty amazing in what she does. But she also gives me ideas of what to include in my presentation that I did not include initially. So again, I'm Jen Davis Hayes. I'm Economic Development Manager. I have two of my colleagues here. Farrell Atunio is to my left here, is Economic Development Coordinator, and Juliana here is Economic Development Coordinator as well, and we can pass the mic to her. She'll be speaking in our next presentation. So when I did not, unfortunately, provide a nice overview of our division and when that started, but our division started in 2012. We were our own department at that time, and in 2020, we were reorganized into the executive department, which is also known as the mayor's office. And so that was with two members, and we added Juliana's position this year as a limited term employee for 2 years, as my role has begun to focus on affordable housing and redevelopment in Central Issaquah area. And so with that founding of the department in 2012, the Economic Vitality Commission was started that year as well. So in this presentation, trying to give a broad overview of kind of when people think about economic vitality and economic development in Issaquah. We jokingly sometimes say everything in our community is about economic vitality. So it's not just about the businesses. It's not just about the jobs. It's about education. It's about arts and culture. It's about equity. It's about feeling included. People want to live here. People want to work here because of multiple things. And so while we may be focused on businesses and providing small businesses assistance, it really is important, and we are tangentially involved in multiple other places. So, but this just gives a quick overview, again, of our major employers. But to the point of our previous public commenter, there's 2,600 home-based businesses. I'm sorry, home-based and brick-and-mortar businesses in Issaquah, right? So the number of businesses that have more than 75 employees, slower, is, sorry, I do speak fast, is pretty much represented here. There's some other businesses that are above 75 employees, but that just tells you the majority of our businesses are going to be your home-based, your 1, 2, 10 employee businesses. That's who we really provide assistance to, because while we love Costco, they really don't need our help or our business assistance workshops to help them succeed. My commissioners always like to see this. Yeah, do you have a question, Art?
I'd like to just go back to this slide with I would like to see all business. Sorry, hate these things. I would like to see the small businesses identified as well. I think it's not equal treatment to have the large businesses identified for the commissioners and just the other ones just be small business owner. Okay. So I'd like to see Art by Fire there. I'd like to see the other small businesses identified specifically.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes. So this is from our commissioners, when I say it's here again, this is an image that once I discovered it, I use all the time, and really talks about why to do economic development. So it's, if you look at on the right-hand side, the business development side, that's what we as city staff and other people who work in economic development really can do to impact the economic vitality. Those of you in the room that have businesses or have been involved in businesses know that you're the one every day making those decisions and creating those jobs. But we can do things such as marketing the community, again, and looking at business attraction. How can we help retain and grow the businesses here? And export and trade, we do less here in Issaquah, but in other communities, that's an important thing. But then as you follow that circle around, it's why, right? So it's for job creation, which creates payroll and capital investments. And then the economic outcome really is what I care about, is the increased prosperity for everybody, the job opportunities for everybody, and increased standard of living for everybody. So we're in a pretty fortunate community here where the economic foundations we have are strong, but that does not mean we don't have work to do to help bring all of our community along there. So again, this is just a real, a lot of times people think about economic development as giving away money to corporations, to businesses. We have a state constitution that does not allow us to do incentives. So my entire 20 plus years in economic development here in the state, I've never been able to do that. And I go to other places and they talk about, being able to do those things. We have to rely on things that really help businesses in different ways. So in general, this is what we do in economic development as a staff. So again, we really try to be that first point of contact for businesses. So they may come into the city through our permit center, through our police department, through walking in the front door, through our arts commission, arts connections, whatever it may be. But we're here to help them get answers, get connected to people in the community. And again, mentioning retention and expansion, that is really the bread and butter of economic development. Attracting a business takes a lot more time. If any of you have employees, you know how hard it is to attract and to get a new employee on board and aware of what to do in their job. But keeping your employees and helping them grow is an easier job, but also keeps loyalty. So that's what we really focus on, is retention and expansion. Tourism, in partnership with our commissioner here, Commissioner Garrard, who's with Visit Issaquah. We have a lodging tax advisory committee that we are also staff, and we look at focusing on tourism for 50 miles plus. Business recruitment, we partner with a regional organization to do that, but also we will cold call anybody. So if you have ideas, we are not into trying to steal other businesses, but help them grow and have a second or third location in our community. That is really, for our region, that's what makes sense. Stealing a business from Kent to Issaquah or Issaquah to Kent, it doesn't grow our region, and that's what's important. And then workforce development, which really, is inclusive of our education system and working with how to upskill our current employees. We, unfortunately, our work plan is often as other duties as assigned. So we put a few examples of things that we do here, but there may be some other examples that you may have encountered with our department. The creative district is something that Juliana serves on the committee for the downtown and Gilman area that is with the Arts Commission. We have a small business assistance program where we really have increased over the past 3 years. We have been a Startup 425 founding partner. That's the East Side cities that have collaborated with funding and efforts to make sure we have small businesses have workshops and other assistance. And during the pandemic, that was our real important resource to help businesses. And then we've also been involved in the creation of the Community Business Connector program, which again, during the pandemic, and you probably know this yourself, is that we relied on a lot of people to get connected to those small businesses and the businesses who were not connected within our ecosystem already. So we turned to a lot of nonprofit organizations, and they wanted to help their communities, and they did that during the pandemic. And what we then, we as a region did for King County was to create an invest money in a community business connector program, which helped to provide additional connections for those who were not as connected into the system because of language, culture, whatever it may be, geography. And so those are now paid contracts with nonprofit organizations to provide those services. And again, I don't need to read through all of these, but Vision Partners, I'll just explain, is an organization of our 5 community organizations, including our Economic Vitality Commission, our Chamber of Commerce, our Downtown Issaquah Association, Issaquah Highlands Council, Gilman Village Merchants Association, and Visit Issaquah. All those organizations work with somehow with businesses, and so we come together on a monthly basis to really make sure we're connected with what's going on and are able to adjust as necessary. And again, we're here tonight to talk about our economic development plan update. So, and here's the lovely pictures of ourselves. You get to see them in person for those who are here, but the most important one is that bottom left-hand corner is everybody that's here today, because economic vitality is everything, and we, 2,600 businesses, We don't know all 2,600. We don't know when somebody's having a problem. So if we say this to our peers in our city, to everybody we talk to, please do not hesitate to send somebody our way. We are here to help and to be able to offer assistance, and even if it's not about a question that we can answer, we will help make that connection. So that's really how we're going to be successful. I'm going to then pass it over to our chair, Chris Richley. And I did here on this slide, just went and put where people are from, again, because of the diversity of economic vitality, to kind of show you where people may work and or represent on our commission. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Jen, and thank you. My name is Chris Richley, Commission Chair of the Economic Vitality Commission for the City of Issaquah. Thank you, Equity Board, to inviting us to this meeting to go over the Economic Development Plan. As you can see, like Jen said, we have a diverse background of different businesses, business owners, representatives, and also, diversity within ourselves on our commission. From Thomas Brown with Costco, we have Landon, who's the East Side. He's one of our newest commissioners. Landon's East Side Catholic teacher and also part of DECA. Art Freeze, as you see in Art by Fire, he's a small business owner right downtown. If you haven't been to his glass shop, go to his glass shop and learn how to blow some glass. And also, it's part of the creative district, right? Christy Garda, who's Visit Issaquah director, and so she's recently, gotten that and really done a really good job of looking at, how do we attract tourism to Issaquah? How do we include small business? How does that incorporate diversity? How does it incorporate different demographics within, Issaquah? What does Issaquah want to be known for, right? To attract those businesses and people to come visit us and want to stay. Jennifer Larson, part of Sanmar, right here in our room. Kimberly Lee, Lakeside Industries. We have a developer on staff, as far as commission. Ashwin, small business owner of the Chevron and your tech business and a vitamin shop. So he owns 3 businesses. So, I mean, we got a lot of business insight. We got Nicoletta. She's also not present, but she is a small business owner as well. Myself, I manage the Harperstone Credit Union up in the Highlands. Been in banking for over 20 years. And small business. I come from a small business family. We have Anu, who's one of our new commissioners this year. She's also part of, I can't even say your name. What's the name? Dolores. And then we also have AJ, who's part of Microsoft, been with Microsoft for a while. So as you can see, again, a broad diversity. And then we have Joan Provola, who's been everywhere. I forgot Joan, sorry. Retired realtor and actually been on almost every commission that I could think of in the city. So great insight on arts, great insight on what's happening in the community, part of Kiwanis Club, and just a big, and Dia downtown. So a lot of there, so. Let's see, what do we got? Our commission objectives. So we act as a catalyst between the city council, similar to you, but we act as catalyst between the city council, developers, residents, and the business community to expand and improve the economic climate of Issaquah within the context of the city commitment to social and environmental objectives. So what does that mean in a nutshell? We basically help everything business and how to develop it. Who's here, our residents. We talk to community. What kind of businesses would you like to see within Issaquah? What kind of, what are you seeing that you don't like? Where, we talk to businesses. What keeps you here? What's going to make you leave? What's going to help you go, grow your business and so forth. So we're more of a, how should I say? What's the word I'm looking for? Yeah. There you go, advisory board more than a development board. We're more of an advisory board to that. Some past EV projects that we've done for the Economic Vitality Commission. We worked on creating an economic development plan and strategy from 2014 to 2018 since it's been developed. That's what we're currently working on now is the new ED plan. Responded to council's requests and certain things for Central Issaquah Catalyst project. We've also helped on providing feedback on the recent business license code update. There's several codes that need to be updated within the business licensing that also we looked at, diversity and objectives around, verbiages that made sense back then, but now do we make them current for the current work status, and how do we make it current so it's easier to read and easier to get by for businesses to understand and not so complex? We provided input on Title 18 land use code update. We looked at several things as far as how do we had different advisory boards come to us and ask, what are our business wanting? What are our businesses seeing as far as development and the use of that land? And does it make sense now, again, for the current times or the later times? And as you can see, we've, nope, you're good. You can go forward. So the new plan for 2023, we are working on a current economic development plan, action plan as we speak. We have a business leadership forum that we put together April, and then we have one coming up in September. That basically, the first one we had in April was up in the Issaquah Highlands. We brought together several city, different partners within the city. We had developers, we had the police, we had the fire department, we had we had 2 different small business groups that helped with small business development and just business plan development and whatnot. We had EV commissioners present, we had small business present, we had the mayor present, everybody, we had permitting present. So we put everybody together in one room for the public and small businesses to come see. The one that we have in September coming up, Sam Mar is going to happily host us, is going to be more for the bigger opportunities for the business owners to come in, and we can talk to them about the economic development plan around, retention, future expansion. How could we working with their vendors, if it's Costco, on bringing their vendors into Issaquah, or is it more expansion as far as how we can help them with hiring and development and whatnot. So that's that next leadership board. Then we have business retention and expansion visits. So as commissioners, we have different commissioners go out with city staff and development, and we talk to small businesses, because a lot of times they won't talk to city staff. They'll talk to the commissioner, but maybe they think, oh, the city's not going to talk to us, but they'll reach out to the commissioners, and we can ask those questions around, again, how could we help support you? What are you looking for in Issaquah? What's the future look like for you? Are you in trouble? Are you not? What can we do to support your growth and expansion and retention of employees and keep them here and prosper? And then coordinate with the creative district for recruitment and marketing. You're trying to look at, what are we known for? Are we known for sports medicine like the old ED plan? Are we known for creative arts and industry and different small business opportunities that we have within the city? And then coordinating with our vision partners. So as Jen mentioned, we may monthly, it's a working meeting, believe it or not, but we do get in front of economic vitality. Was really important to get in front of, as well as with Visit Issaquah. You're looking at Downtown Issaquah Association, Gilman Village, and really getting the heart and pulse of what's going on business wise and what the future does look like and the input for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Richley. Are there any questions, comments? If not, we'll move on to the ED plan, but I want to pause, allow any questions, and I am sorry for speaking so fast, so I will try to continue to slow down. I know our commissioners pretty much have seen this presentation in one format or another in orientation or such.
Jen, I just have a quick question. So I am one of the 2,600 people or businesses in Issaquah, because I have a business license in Issaquah, but I have my business in Renton, and I couldn't get a business license in Renton unless I had a business license in Issaquah. So when you talk about 2,600 businesses, do you kind of separate and look at, where it's coming from, or if they're, contributing to the economic development of Issaquah?
Yes, thank you. And so that is correct. So anybody who comes in and does business in Issaquah, so you hire a plumber from out of town, they have to have an Issaquah business license. We are not counting those in that 2,600. So those are physically home-based or brick and mortar businesses, 2,600. Otherwise, there's about 7,000 or so each year that, again, people who come in to do business that have to have a business license in here in the city. Yes, Art.
Just a quick question. Do you have a number for the number of businesses that are paying tax in Issaquah, like sales tax or B&O tax?
We could probably find that out. So there is a threshold of if you're making $100,000 or less, you do not pay business and occupation tax. Sales tax, of course, goes to the state, and then we get a proportion back. And I don't think there's an exemption for that, but we can find that out. Good question. Okay, seeing no other questions. Is there somebody else? Okay, so we'll dive into what we are here to talk about tonight. Again, on your list of people who've come in front of the Equity Board to get input, hopefully you get to add now about the Economic Development Plan. And so, as you may have seen on the things that the Commission did in the past, so when the Commission started at the end of 2012, one of the things they did in 2013 and into 2014 was to create the first Economic Development Plan for the department. And so really it was an important opportunity to, as new commissioners, new staff, to go, okay, who's out there? Who are those 2,600 businesses? Who are those, who's in the community now, and what do they need? And so it was looking back on that work and the SWOT, the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats they did then was really interesting because it hasn't changed drastically, but of course things have changed. So we are here tonight to talk about the update of our action plan. Now, because did that not share twice? Because the plan was through 2018, and as I mentioned, we were a department. We got reorganized into a division. Our plan was to update. Our plan was to update our plan. Our plan was to update our economic development plan after the city did a strategic plan, which its first one in 2019. So in 2020, we were going to update our plan. So now you know why we haven't done it till now. And one of the things we, as we were talking about, it still feels that our businesses and what's happening in our business community and climate, it's still not solid, quote unquote, back to normal, right? So for us to create a longer term plan, thinking about 5 years out, it just feels like we're not there yet. And I think nowadays, especially with other strategic planning efforts, you realize that, you know, it's better to think short term, think about those long term goals, but what are those short term things to get there? So that's really why we're looking at this action plan. And so we want to tell you a little bit about the plan, where we're at. We're at the very beginning of it, and then gather feedback and input on the process. And we want to hear from you, right? So this is the opportunity for our commissioners to hear from Equity Board members and then, you know, be able to ask those follow-up questions. So you may be seeing our commissioners not as active in these questions because they're here to listen and then follow up, you know, going, okay, what did you mean by that? Or what do you think about that? So that's really our purpose tonight. And you'll see on the slides, I said, and other things to consider, because really this is not we are not baked. This is what we're doing. This is what we've done. We really value your partnership and your ability to provide that input, and we're willing to and want to listen. So this is, again, that 2015 to 2018 strategic plan, the big plan goal areas. And as the public commenter mentioned before, I neglected to put the comprehensive plan here, but at the same time we were creating this, the comprehensive plan was being updated, and we utilized these goals at a higher level. So these same concepts are currently in our comprehensive plan. And we anticipate that that's not going to change drastically. Now, that may change, you know, the comprehensive plan is a 20, 30-year document that you want to have those high-arching goals, but you obviously want to change according to how your community is changing. So there may be some adjustments there, but the comprehensive plan is at one level, the city strategic plan at the next level, ED plan at the next level. So she was right that there's this high, you know, order of kind of thinking about vision and such. And so encourage you to think about that as you move forward. But again, you know, the plan goals, and these are kind of quote unquote fancy words, where successful business environment just means that people are being able to start their business and grow their business here. promote value proposition at the time. We're like, why would people want to come to do business here in Issaquah? What is that about? And so that was about the recruiting and the marketing of who we are and what we're about as far as a community. Workforce and development housing, that's self-explanatory. It's still something that's important. And a vibrant community, which is kind of all those other things that really make why people want to be here. So those were our main goal, our main focus points. And I think, again, they will continue to be, but maybe some nuanced changes. This is a lot of words on this slide, but again, this is our city strategic plan, and we are under the social and economic vitality goal. And there is one objective, they're talking about an increase in new and existing businesses that choose to locate and expand in Issaquah, especially those with wage levels that enable workers to also live in the community. It is a mouthful. It is something that you probably won't be able to get out in an elevator speech, but the idea is that, unfortunately, I think it feels like you're putting a lot of things into one sentence, but we want to look at, if we're attracting employers here, we want to think about the wage level they are providing, that people who are working in our community can afford to live in our community as well. So that is one aspect of it. Doesn't mean that's our only thing that we're doing, but at a city strategic level, plan level, that's what was important in 2019. Again, I think I saw in this very council room virtually the pivot that our council did about really supporting our current businesses and how important they are, and the recognizing that and investing in that. And this may be a little small to see on the screen. Sorry about that. So our Economic Development Action Plan was funded this year, and we'll have some additional resources to implement in 2024. So we did an RFQ, and we hired Community Attributes, Inc., so CAI. That is a consultant firm that actually, even though we received about 9 applicants, we worked with them on getting data for us in our past strategic plan. We are focused on the next 1 to 3 years, again, because the ever-changing position we're in right now. Our Economic Vitality Commission serves as that advisory group to this plan, although we have lots of other opportunities for input. So we with our consultants, are doing one-on-one interviews. We're doing focus groups. We're about to launch a resident focus survey and a small business focus survey. And then we're also doing, and those surveys are in Spanish, translated into Spanish and Mandarin. And we're also doing office hours in the community. So you'll see one of us sitting there with a sign at a coffee shop, at Krispy Kreme, at all places around town. There's probably about 6 of them, I believe, we're doing. So like 12 to 15 hours of sitting in the community, letting people know we're there, starting up a conversation with people to know we were there, and just really having the opportunity for people to ask questions, and we'll be able to, whether it's about the plan, whether it's about a workshop, or, I'm thinking about starting a business, where do I start? Do I need to have a business license in Issaquah? What do I need? Those type of questions are asked over and over again. And then a couple other things. So we're doing joint commission meetings with Arts Commission. We did that in June, and Equity Board, which we're here tonight, and I wrote commission. Sorry about that. And then we are also looking at, we have 2014 data, economic data. Yeah, that's sad, right? So we are looking at updating that data to learn more about those 2,600 businesses that are here. And with that, we do know that it's challenging to get good data for a couple of reasons, but just the data sources aren't caught up. So a lot of the data is going to be from 2020, which, again, we know things have changed even in that short amount of time. When we talk about the equity lens as we have gone through this process, so the image to the left is what was actually in the consultant's proposal response to our RFQ. And it really, it's hard to see, but there's a ribbon that says equity and inclusion, which goes over the work they do. So it's not a separate, and we want to focus on equity and inclusion. It's part of what they do throughout the way. But just to step back for a second, we, as the 3 of us, took our city's equity framework and reviewed it as we walked through it, as we created the RFQ, asked those questions. And then we also ensured there were a few interview questions to every panelist. And as we're looking at the scope, we made sure that we asked those questions again from the equity framework and how are we ensuring that we're going to achieve what we wanted to achieve. And then looking at the outreach, we are, again, not just talking to Costco and other large businesses, but we really are looking at how can we make sure that we reach the small businesses, the entrepreneurs who are thinking about starting businesses. So, and then you see, again, other ideas. And that's one of the things we're here to talk to you about to make sure we don't miss out. So I am going to, and so the timeline, we're doing outreach. We're just starting outreach June and July. The plan will be, kind of drafted August, September, and finalized through November. So it's a quick one. Again, we're not looking at recreating the wheel. We're looking at what's need to be done and where are those focuses that we as staff and we as partners need to do for the next few years. So I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to pause for questions, but I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues to then to ask the discussion questions. So are there any questions in the room or on this on virtual up to this point?
Kelly Munn, Equity Committee. You had on there that you did the equity framework on your RFQ. Was there anything in particular that stood out that was useful to you in using the tool? And was there anything in particular that challenged you in the tool?
What a great question. Yes and yes. I know that you guys have had a lot of conversations about the equity framework. And I also serve on the internal equity team. So I know that, looking at that it's super important. I think one of the actual saying, here's a piece of paper with some questions, most helpful, right? Because he may be thinking about equity and inclusion different. I may be thinking about different. She may be thinking about differently. So having something that's, okay, here's the things we need to consider. And we all bring in our own other aspects of it. So that was really helpful. I think one of the challenges, and this is not about the framework, but is that it asked questions that we didn't have data for, right? And then that sometimes made you feel stuck and felt like, can I move forward unless I had these answers? And, after more conversation, you're like, okay, no, but we need to, how can we get that data, right? So that actually forced us to kind of think about how to do that. And sometimes data just isn't available. And yeah, I think there's some other feedback, about just the framework that I think, again, first time using it, second time using it's a little easier, but I think there's some other things that probably could be, as you use it, you get a little bit more familiar, but also figure out what things and how to do it better. I don't know if Pharrell or Juliana want to add anything to that, because we sat there and, chugged through those 13 questions.
Yeah, my name is Pharrell Otieno. I'm the Economic Development Coordinator with the City of Issaquah. So what I can add to that is, and first let me take you back, because we had like 10 we had 10 applications, and in the 10 applications, I think few of them just tap on equity lens. So we were trying also to iron them out, because our main focus is that equity piece. Does this consultant outline this the way that we want it? So we tend to highlight the ones that mention the equity lens and equity focus in the process, and we invite them for the interview. So our main goal is the equity piece. We are treating it as a serious aspect within the City of Issaquah.
And I just wanted to add, this is Juliana De Cruz, staff with the City of Issaquah. And I wanted to add that the redundancy of some of the questions was actually quite helpful, because it kind of just tried to give you more angles to get at that same question. So I found that really helpful of giving new light to the same idea. But one challenge which Jen highlighted was, am I absolutely convinced that my opinion captures the diversity of the community? And the answer was no. And so it could feel a little paralyzing. And so we just wanted to keep that limitation in mind as we move forward, but just being mindful that that could feel like an insurmountable barrier.
Yeah, thanks for that question. I believe there is Christina?
Sí, bueno, estaba pensando si hay algún programa que motive a las minorías a crear negocios o si habría o han pensado en alguna manera de hacerlo y si tienen posibles líderes en la mente para realizar esto.
Yes, I was just wondering, are there any programs that focus on encouraging minorities to open businesses, or are there leaders for that whole focus, or will there be in the future?
Thanks, Christina. That's a really great question. And so one of the programs that we were involved in is called the Community Business Connector Program, and it's King County wide. And we have hired through that program. And so when I say we, I mean our community, our regional partners have hired organizations focused that do reach out and speak Spanish and from the Spanish community, as well as other languages, including Korean, and some other languages. I can't remember all the languages right now, but that are specifically focused on small businesses, how to start a business, how to grow a business. The Startup 425 program, again, we stepped back and said, okay, all these things have happened since 2020. What we were doing as workshops in a library in the evening, does that make sense anymore? And we said no. So we worked with our city partners. So that includes Bellevue, Renton, Redmond, Kirkland, and ourselves to revamp and to really refocus and host different events with different community-based organizations to get out to those who may not automatically read the business e-news and know to come to this workshop. So it's still a work in progress. We every day try to do what we can. We also, one of the things that was not included on this slide is during COVID, we applied for federal funding to do business micro enterprise outreach. And so that's for businesses with 5 employees or less, including the owner. And you had to be low or moderate income. So that we had hired a consultant who had different languages represented in their staff, and they went out and worked directly with businesses, getting them connected with not just assistance, but also with financing. And so that was something as well. So it's definitely not something that we have, check the box. We got it 100%, but it's something that we know that it's important for our community, especially. Thank you.
Thank you.
When I was reviewing the slide deck, I have a whole bunch of different questions in my mind, so they might not all make sense. But one of the issues that occurred to me is that, so ultimately it seems the goal here is to have a vibrant community, and the other boxes are in service to that. And I also know that income inequality is something that tears apart a community. So as you think about these economic development plans, I'm just wondering how do you center those who have not benefited from past economic development policies? How do you understand who they are? So who's been harmed or not received the same level of benefit, and make sure you hear from them to figure out how you can serve those communities better. And then I think tied to that, so when you should pull together an outreach plan, try to really find where those folks are and authentically engage with them, not just say, well, we tried, we couldn't do it, so we got to move on. And then I'm also looking at this handout that Dale had produced a while ago around demographic shifts in Issaquah from 2010 to 2020. And there's stuff around languages spoken. So 3/4 of the population only spoke English. Now it's down to 2/3. And so how are you factoring language, issues to make sure outreach is accessible? There's, a different, I haven't mapped it, but I'm looking at like the income by group, at different tiers. And so just kind of wondering how to make sure that everyone is, no one's left behind in this process. So I totally appreciate how complex this is if you're focused on businesses, but how does that ripple out to everyone's well-being?
Great question, and I don't have the exact answer. Yes, but I think, you know, one of the things that we try to do is to tap into the programs that we've already connected with, the micro enterprise businesses that we connected with, and one of the things I did not mention, which is again most of their work, is being proactive and reaching out to different business owners. And also entrepreneurs who are starting businesses. A lot of people who reach out to us, again, are not even the 75-person business. It's somebody who wants to open a business. And I will say our biggest partner is, Monica and her team. We have done several things over the past, and some of them work and some of them don't. And so Pharrell, is exploring, do we do a job fair that is less about come one, come all, throw your resume in the pile with everybody else, but working with people who may be willing to hire those who have a criminal record or who have other barriers. We are still working on trying to put that together, but we're trying to figure out different ways of doing what we had done in the past, right? And I think, so the language, we have two languages we have the survey translated to, does not cover all of our community. I think we will be tapping into the community business connector groups to see, because those organizations, if they serve somebody who speaks whatever language, they're not just only working in Kent or working in Bellevue, they're working, all throughout the community. So trying to tap in through that. Again, human services staff often refer, we send a lot of our information out to the nonprofits who work with those individuals as well. And so hoping that kind of gets to people, again, who either have small businesses on the side, who want to start a business. And so we are, are very interested in hearing other ways to get to those communities. And thinking about also the income changes. Yeah, that is I don't say drastic, but it's something that it was really interesting to see how much is happening here in Issaquah, where we think about affluence most of the time, right? And so it really did show what's happening throughout the country of the income inequality. And so how do we continue to make sure that the services we are doing, so we offer free services, we offer, we need to be looking at more languages, we need to be offering them different times, have childcare, all those kind of things. We're not at that point yet to say those are the answers, but we are here to kind of hear that. So how do we do that, right? So we're hoping through our efforts we mentioned, but we're open to hearing other ways that we should be looking at that.
This is Juliana DeCruz. I just wanted to add that we as government are prevented from asking about certain demographic data of business owners. And so we collect what we can based on the folks we know, and we have prioritized trying to reach out to them in our business outreach efforts, and communicating with the survey about them is a goal. But we know we're not reaching everyone, and we know we don't have the data there. So we're hoping that part of this conversation will sort of dredge up some ideas of who else we should be asking. Some things we're thinking about are some focus areas of our economy that we care about. So we know Creative District is one that's really important to Issaquah and outdoor recreation. And we know that there are diverse voices in those arenas. And so we're trying to be thoughtful about what groups exist and asking them if we can tap into those networks to reach those business owners and residents, because we know many people will become entrepreneurs, and they might be residents now, but they'll be business owners in the future.
And this is Farrell, the Economic Development Coordinator. Just to add on what my colleague has said, so we do a lot of BR. We are trying to understand these businesses, because if we don't talk to them, some of them won't understand their challenges, what they're going through. So we do day in, day out, we do a couple of BR. And I've been successful with the home-based businesses. I think she mentioned about our main focus is the creative industry, our direct, and now also the home-based businesses is our main focus. So we tend to look at it in the direction that 90% of these folks are minority-owned businesses. They're people of diverse. They speak different language. English is not their first language. So that engaging them one-on-one is key to us. We don't have the exact data, but as much as we do our BR, we try and document.
Commissioner Lorna, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Juliana. And for all I understand the limitations that you have as you're trying to reach out to some of our community members. I was actually wondering about space. I know that it was very expensive to rent spaces. Is there any plans to have some kind of business area? Because I know that there are many individuals in this community who are trying to start small businesses. And for all, you kind of mentioned that, home-based businesses. Is there any plan to open some kind of like a mall type space that has many small spaces to make it more feasible for some of the business owners to start out their businesses and be more visible? That was one question. My second question is, as we're getting families who are lower income, as Issaquah is expanding and getting more, Section 8 housing, I've also noticed that there's a shift in what kind of supports and services our families need and the cost of some of those services. And sometimes Issaquah does tend to lean towards more high-end stores and services. So are we also looking at some services and locations for businesses that might support some less, not as expensive businesses? So I guess I'm looking, because I'm thinking that those businesses might have a harder time paying their rent given their cost of rent. So how do we balance that and make it feasible for people to live and buy locally? Because I hear a lot of families going to Renton or to Kent for certain items because it's cheaper there, services there.
That is a great question, and probably one of the hardest things to address, because it is a private owner who controls the rent and controls that. So the question about if we have plans to open up a incubator, smaller space pop-up, there's nothing happening now, but part of this is so that potentially may be one of our action items moving forward, is to explore that. And so that's something that we hear over and over again. We actually heard in our Arts Commission joint meeting, space for artists and creative businesses is challenging as well. We have a 1.9% retail vacancy rate. Yay for economic vitality, bad for trying to find a place. And so when you have such low availability, rent is high, right? So I think that is definitely something as we continue to hear it, then that justifies that that's something we should focus on. So, in 2012 and 13, when we were talking to the community, that wasn't, what was brought up. So I think that's something that, again, we want to hear. And I don't know if either of you want to say anything more to that. I wish we could allow the opportunity for people to be able to start businesses. And that's, if we don't have opportunities for people to start businesses, you're right, they're going to go to other locations, and that's not good for our community. Although I do live in Renton and like that, but I want that here as well.
Yes.
One of the things we're going to have to do as we address these issues is, as you bring in those creative spaces and things like that, giving people like a seminar or a workshop on pricing. Because I will tell you, particularly in the creative space, you kind of smack your head a lot when you see how some people price things, because the price of materials, the price of labor, and that what they're putting out there, is not survivable and pulls the prices down for the other artists. Because you see, I would probably say 80 to 90% of all artists are pricing their work for materials only. And that really hurts that arts, the vitality of the arts community is really struggling with its own poor pricing.
That's a great point. I think that's part of the business assistance that we do connect people to. So it's not Pharrell and Juliana and myself are telling them that, but people who've worked with hundreds and thousands of businesses to have them look at the data and have them look at their own books, which when you're an entrepreneur, you're really good at creating this, but you may not be aware as all the other things you need to think about a business. So, and so you guys are diving into our questions already. So I pulled the screen back up. And so I'm going to let Juliana talk a little bit about the process, I think, or Pharrell, you? Sorry.
Thanks, Jen. This is Pharrell Otieno again with Economic Development Coordinator with the city. So I think we've dived on some of our questions, and our first question was, are there aspects of the Economic Development Action Plan process that we should consider adjusting? From what Jen have presented, from the outreach, how we anticipate of doing this. So these are key questions, especially for the equity team, and the EVC team can also chip in. And number one, what we're trying to look at, maybe to ensure equity is considered in each phase that this economic development plan is going to pass through, and to enhance opportunities for inclusion. And I think Jen has also mentioned some other ideas. Other ideas is just there, like we want to hear from you guys what you think.
And I'm going to jump in real quick to say, if there's an organization, if there's a person, if there's a group, a business owner, whatever that you think we want to reach out to, you can definitely let us know now. You can let us know afterwards, because we're willing to go out and speak to anybody, anywhere about this. So thank you.
And just to highlight on our focus area 3, creative industry, outdoor rec, home-based businesses. And that does not limit us from expounding more opportunities or ideas that you may have.
I don't know if this is Preeti from the Equity Board. I don't know if my comments respond directly to your questions, but I was thinking around in the outreach phase when you're getting information from various communities. Have you all considered thinking about the businesses that have left Issaquah to understand their reasons for leaving? I don't know if this would work for residents who leave, maybe because they're priced out from housing, things like that, to get a sense of why people can't stay in the city. So I think that might be a good point of information. And then when I'm also thinking about outreach, not just to understand kind of challenges and barriers, but also like definitely seek their ideas. What do they need? And yeah, just so. Didn't know if that's part of your thinking, but like have them co-create the solutions that they need.
Thank you. That's a good input. Yes, Lorna.
I was also wondering if you reach out to the stalls for the Saturday market, for salmon days, at Christmas there was an activity, or there was an event at the train depot, and I'm wondering, having those boutique pop-up places, if there's a possibility for the city to kind of organize more of them over time, because I attended both days of the pop-up event at the train depot, and I was really impressed about the number of small businesses that were able to showcase their wares there, and they were mainly home-based. And I just wondered if there are more opportunities more frequently, and maybe they would come out more, so that it would become more visible. Because I think part of it was the lack of visibility. And one of the things I'd heard about for Salmon Days, it was really hard and very competitive to get a stall at Salmon Day. So I'm sure there's an entire history behind that. But I was just wondering what other venues there were to showcase some of the businesses in more pop-up kind of situations throughout the year.
Thank you, Laura, for your comment. This is Chris Richley, Commission Economic Vitality. Just to comment on that, just to kind of get clarification, when you say businesses pop up, can you provide a little more clarity on where these businesses are coming from? Are these true local businesses? Issaquah has a business license, or are you wanting others to come in from other cities to conduct business? I'm just curious.
I don't know. I think some of them were from Issaquah, but I'm wondering if there can be venues because real estate is so expensive to kind of bring them in, several times a year. And I don't know, have some kind of a, requirement that they have to be Issaquah business. So basically saying shop local to kind of help market those businesses when you do have events like the market days, or honestly that event at the train depot or salmon days, so that we are giving people who have businesses in Issaquah the leg up to sell their wares in Issaquah locally. Salmon days, I know most of the people are from out of town, but for other kind of venues like that, where a lot of people locally who are shopping, to come in and then kind of market their wares and sell their wares. Kind of the olden days, small town. I was in Guatemala for 2 years, and on Saturday, the market day, everyone would come in with their wares, and that was this small shop. So something like that to create more of a community and help the people try to build up their businesses in Issaquah, be able to showcase their wares, and as they grow, hopefully to develop a store. So.
Good idea, Lorna. Thank you. Yes.
I just want to follow up on that. Sometimes when you bring in a pop-up business from somewhere else, its purpose is to help the economic vitality of the city, of the businesses that are here. So you bring in a cookie place and people are around there and they go to the other restaurants and the other businesses. So you can't just say we're going to concentrate on only Issaquah-owned businesses to do that pop-up. You have to really look at, DIA does a lot of that, bringing in different people and encouraging it. But my question, I think, is probably really silly, but what's the definition of equity?
So equity, I think, is to bring more opportunities to people, to historically marginalized communities that have not had the access or the ability to get those opportunities, to raise them up.
I don't know. I look at equity as being equal to, everybody, to incorporate every good ideas. So I'm a little confused of exactly,
I think Monica has a slide on the definition of equity versus equality. Equality is giving everyone equal opportunity to all of these different choices and opportunities. But as we are recognizing, some groups have historically not have had as many opportunities. And so it is to raise the ability for groups that historically have not had the opportunity to reach up and get those opportunities. So equity and equality are different. And Monica, I think, has a slide. I don't know if you have easy access to that slide, Monica, to differentiate for the group the definition of equity versus equality.
She will look for the slide, but we'll get that up there.
Well, I think the simplest definition of equality means each individual or group of people is given the same resources or opportunities. But if you look at equity, equity now recognizes that each person has different circumstances and allocates the exact resource and opportunity needed to reach an equal outcome.
Thank you, Farrell.
And so what Monica said off mic is that we can provide some additional information. And sorry, we didn't kind of dive into that more with before we started. So, yeah, thank you for that question. Yes.
Going back to my professional life a little bit, I think it might be helpful. You know, there's a lot of different perspectives on the definitions. Putting a business glossary together or a dictionary together with the definitions that you're working with, I think would be huge help. And making that definitional set, you know, public on the website or something like that. That might help have people come in clear, you know, clearer from the start rather than having to go back to the definitions.
I just don't want people assuming that just because you're a regular person, that you don't have some rights and some reality for the city to help you. You know, if you have two businesses come in, one's a Spanish business and one is a English, whatever, a Portuguese, or a Puerto Rican business, they're equal to some extent, and they should expect the city to help either one equally. You know, you just can't just look at getting different ethnic businesses started. You have to support the ones that you have, that's all.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think our next question is more the same with the first one. And as we talk about, let's look at it. Are there focus areas we should consider for the action plan? And I like the conversation that we're having because we are trying to bring in other ideas like business pop-ups. I think this is the idea that now we are having. So are there focus areas we should consider for the action plan?
And Monica just jumped up. This is the slide that, or the image that I think is a really great opportunity to understand how equity and equality are a little different, right? So again, you have 3 boxes, quote unquote, and you can give everybody one, but that doesn't give people the same view or of the baseball game or whatever kind of game that is. And so by giving that person 2 in the middle and a ramp for the third, it actually gives everybody the same opportunity to. And so when you think about that with other circumstances, if we are providing information in a translated language, it doesn't mean that we're giving them something, more. We're giving them what is needed for them to understand the information we have and the resources available. And so we as government are not allowed to provide more to one person versus another if we're providing services, but we can provide them in different manners. And to provide that person that's in a wheelchair in this example with a box to be able to see, that's not useful. And so what we need to understand as city employees and members of our community is what is truly needed from individuals. And that could mean, Commissioner Freese has mentioned before about people with disabilities, people who are blind, hearing problems, whatever it may be. And so it's not to say, well, I'm not going to serve that person because of the color of their skin, because of their whatever. I'm not going to provide those extra services. I want them to be successful no matter who they are and what challenges they have. And I want to be able to provide the assistance to get those challenges addressed. So I think this is whenever you see, it's simple when you see this, but again, then you take that to other examples of what is really needed to help giving that opportunity. We're not giving extra, money. We don't have money. We don't give money to people, but we don't give extra money. We help people who come to us and help them to go with it. Every business is different. One business may need more hand-holding than another business that has the exact same circumstances. We will do that to help them be successful.
And just to piggyback off that, similar to your program that you put together, like Monica stated, one may need 2 hours of assistance, one may need 200. So business is the same way when you think about it and the equality piece of it. We're not able to just look at it from that as much as we would like to. Business doesn't function that way. One business may be like Take example, there are very many home-based successful businesses. They don't need much assistance. They don't need us to tell them where to go. And then there's others like the micro businesses that are like, where do I get business? How do I put together a business plan? So they require more resources in that and that's such. So we advise on that more so than, hey, we're not going to help you because you're successful and you make this much annual revenue a year. That doesn't get factored into that at all. They come to us for advice in that sort. We're going to help them.
I just wanted to make sure that that was brought up into the conversation, because what I was hearing was strictly on one side, that we should help these new businesses develop. And I wanted to make sure that the city was talking about all of it.
Thanks, Jen.
And I think when we get back to this question of the focus areas, Pharrell said this, as we talk about a focus on creative industries, home-based businesses, and outdoor recreation, a lot of what we know in economic development is building upon what your assets are, and that's what we see as our assets. We may be missing an asset and that's part of this question is, are there other focus areas? That does not mean that we will not go and recruit and try to get a business or help a business that's outside those focus areas. But if you're going to, although we're an amazing group of three, we cannot, again, do everything. And so how do you focus the limited amount of resources and time we have? And so we feel that by focusing on the assets we have, it's easier to grow, you have more partners, et cetera. So part, again, of this question is, are there other focus areas we're missing out on or that are tangentially involved? So like outdoor rec, tourism is obviously tangentially involved. People are coming here for those tours or creative industries. So there may be some tentacles that we can build upon that. But again, we are not, when we talk about focus areas, when we talk about a certain community thing, focus, we are not excluding others. We're just trying to get a better feel so we have a more holistic ideas before we get to that. This is exactly what we're doing.
I think Kendra, you had something to say?
Yeah, so just this conversation, and I'm also thinking about the conversation we had last week with the Arts Commission. One of the focus areas that we can consider is cultural immersion that goes beyond just what we already have. So what I mean is people from different parts of the world or different backgrounds, different life experiences, bringing that and making a business out of it in Issaquah to serve two purposes. First is definitely economic vitality and growth, but also education by whatever their channel of choice be. Restaurants is the easiest thing that comes to mind, as diverse as they can be, but it can be more than just restaurants. It can be art, it can be dance, it can be, I don't know, a million other things which can help. It can be religion for those who care, right? That could be a focus area that the ED plan can account for.
Thank you. I think for the interest of time, I don't know how we are going to run this, but we'll create some follow-up and maybe provide other questions to the equity board. I know the EVC will meet in the next couple of weeks so that you can maybe discuss this, have this conversation robustly. But for the equity board, I think we'll just provide the question that we had. Maybe you can discuss internally and we can exchange email address with.
Yeah, if
Thank
I
you.
could add, if I would, encourage you to email the questions to the board, and folks can do individual follow-up with you all. I know we don't have another meeting until September, so it may not be timely enough if we waited for the group to meet, but I think there's some engaged folks who hopefully will be willing to follow up.
Thank you.
Great. So we'll share the recording of the presentation and the questions so they get some context. and appreciate this conversation. It's already 8:52, and we're sorry that we are past our time on the agenda, but this is definitely a robust conversation that we don't want to end here. So just to summarize our next steps, we're doing the survey. It's going to be launched in the next couple days. We'll make sure you have that. So please share that with everybody you know. Again, there's a resident-focused one and a business-focused one. We're going to be looking at our updating our economic data profile, so we have new numbers rather than 2014. And again, we will have to take that with a awareness that that might be 2020 data, but will give us a better idea of what our business data is in Issaquah. And then we will continue, as I mentioned, the Economic Vitality Commission is the advisory group for this plan. So at every meeting, we're going to be talking about this. So you are always invited to come and participate, in public comment. We don't record our meetings, but our information is online. And if you wanted to come and ask questions, if you want to send an email, we would love to hear from you multiple times. And as makes sense, come back for future conversations, knowing that we have full agendas, but that I think this is a partnership that we hope to not just be here once, but that we come and look at this from multiple ways and invite you also to our board, our commission meetings to have conversations about things that you want to work on. I know that was one of your work plan items, so we'd love to have that conversation. Continue.
Great. Well, thank you all for that robust conversation and discussion. Our last agenda item is other business and announcement. So just checking to see if there is any other business or announcement folks would like to make.
My name is Christy, and I'm the Economic Development Commissioner and Economic Vitality Commissioner. And represent Visit Issaquah. And for the Equity Board, I just wanted to let you know that the Visit Issaquah website has been redone, and the events calendar at visitissaqahwa.com has been designated by the mayor as the official events calendar for the city of Issaquah. And I'm the only employee of Visit Issaquah, but I want you to know that I make a real effort to really mine for everything that's happening in our city and really focus and pull out things that are free and low cost to make being involved socially in our community accessible for all people. And I would just ask that if you're ever on the website and you see this updated website, it just launched at the beginning of April. If you see that we're missing an event opportunity that should be shared, or if there's anything on the website that through the equity lens deserves attention, I would very much appreciate that feedback. And this has been a really great conversation. Thank you for arranging, Monica and Jen. I know I take this role very seriously as being an ambassador for the commission, as I'm sure all of you do as well. And what's helpful about a gathering like this is when I'm out in the community meeting with my stakeholders and they ask a question about, well, what is the city doing about, and it's something to do with human services, I feel that I can provide an educated answer and or direct that question to an appropriate contact. And I hope that all of you with the Equity Commission or Equity Board also receive the information that was shared tonight by our leadership, the same. What is the city doing for small businesses? What is the city doing to make sure that business is representative of the makeup of our community? Those are fair questions, and now you kind of have had an introduction and know that that work is ongoing and that your feedback is welcome. So please continue to bring that feedback as you're out being ambassadors with your community, that when you hear those questions that are specific to economic vitality, to please make sure we get that feedback so that we can always take all the voices into consideration. Thank you.
Yes, Lucrecia.
Thank you. This is Lucrecia speaking. I did go on your webpage today, and I can't see your calendar. So all I see is plan your event, things to do, about and inquire now. Those are the options. How
Oh,
does one
thank you.
access
So
the
thanks.
calendar?
Those are all drop-down menus. So if you click on things to do, there's a list of things that are always ongoing for things to do, and then the events calendar is at the bottom of that drop-down menu. Thank you for
Got it.
Thank you for asking for clarity. Happy to provide.
Thank you.
Great. And any other last minute announcements or other business? Great. Well, I thank you all for your grace as the meeting ran over by a half hour, but I appreciated the opportunity to partner with the Economic Vitality Commission. So thank you all for joining our meeting today, and I look forward to future collaboration with you all. And with that, the meeting is adjourned at 8:58 p.m. The next Equity Board meeting is set for September 6th. Thank you all.